I'm very excited to talk to you tonight about a topic which I think most of us affects our lives. 9 out of 10 people like to make good decisions with money. 1%, I don't know, I think they were in that mental ward I was talking about before, but the question tonight is paying cash. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? And my answer right off the bat would be, it depends. What does it depend on? Well, it depends on where your cash is to start with. And then the next thing I would say is whether you want to be rich or not. And that would be the 9 out of 10 people, not the 1%. But since we're talking about cash tonight, let's talk about some myths about cash. Let's talk about myth number 1. Average matters. We hear numbers all the time. You have a financial advisor, if you like to watch STBCC, if you put on, open up any money, any magazine or paper, that article that talks about money, they're usually reporting what the averages are. You open up your prospectus on your mutual fund, it'll tell you what the averages are for the year, 3 years, 10 years since inception. And the myth is that averages actually matter. What I want to do is I want to do a little demonstration of some numbers that I pulled up that illustrate, and then you can tell me if this myth really holds water or not. So let's, I'm going to make everybody here wealthy. Oh, not wealthy, but I'm going to give you $10,000 a piece. How do you like that? Is that good? All right, good. So everybody's got $10,000, and we'll start off with that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to invest this money. And in the first year, we're going to get a plus 36%. Then we're going to get a negative 12, plus 6, and 18, minus 2, 26, 12, 12, 19, and 5. Bottom line is we're going to get an average of 12% average rate of return over 10 years. Okay? Anybody want to guess what we have at the end there? We have $28,000 and change. Okay? Average of 12%. Okay? Remember that number, 28,000. So let's just change these numbers around a little bit. We'll start with saying 10,000. But instead of getting an average of 12%, we're going to get an actual 12% every year for 10 years. Okay, so obviously the average is going to be 12. But the actual 12%, take a guess what the number is on the bottom. 30,000 and change. You actually have $2,000 more by getting an actual rate of return versus an average rate of return. So the myth being, does average rate of return matter?
Yes.
No.
Oh, average.
The absolute average rate of return does not really matter. Okay, it's not as important as people think it is. Myth number 2, compound interest is powerful. Let's talk about compound interest for a second. Compound interest. Compound interest is illustrated by the rule of 72. The rule of 72 states that if you take the interest rate that you would get on your money and you divide it into the number 72, the answer is the amount of years it takes for your money to double. Pretty simple. Okay, so let's illustrate. Let's say you were going to get 3%. Okay, take the same $10,000 that I gave you guys originally. 3 into 72 is, anybody? 44. Okay? So that means that in 24 years, your money will double to $20,000. Okay? No magic here. However, it's going to take, at 3%, it'll take another 24 years to double again, and then you have $40,000. Okay? Now, if you were to double the interest rate from 3 to 6, here's an interesting thing. What happens? What do you think you'd have in the same time frame in 48 years if you double the interest rate? Most people would say double, right?
No, it's 160.
Exactly. It's actually 160. So what do we attribute this to? It's actually compound interest. Okay, so compound interest is powerful. In fact, Albert Einstein said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. But let me show you, this is not too exciting, let me show you the real magic. If we were to get 12%, okay? Instead of getting 160, somebody take a guess what you have down here in 48, somebody give me a number. Shoot out a number, I don't care.
$1 million?
$1 million, good, that's a good start. It's actually $2.5 million and 60,000, okay? So, does compound interest matter? Is it powerful?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, okay? But here's myth number 3. Before we get to myth number 3, let's talk about this for a second. Where can you get uninterrupted compounding of interest? Think about this. If you were to go to the bank and you wanted to buy a car after you had saved up some money, you have to take the money out of the bank, right? To buy the car. Do they continue to pay you interest? No, they don't. But I'm going to show you a place where you can get uninterrupted compounding of interest. Okay? And believe it or not, it's in life insurance. I know I said the same thing when I first started that, but here's the truth. With certain types of policies, you can put money away in an insurance policy, and it will grow uninterrupted whether it's in the policy or not. In other words, you can put the money in the policy and then take it out, use it to buy a car, and still have that money compounding as if it was still in that policy. What is the difference here at the end? Well, the difference here is significant. If you were to buy a car every 5 years, okay, saving up that money, let's say an average of $45,000. At the end of 5 years, you have purchased 5 cars. And at the end of the next 5 years, you have $45,000 left at a return interest rate of 5%. So now you have 5 used cars and 45,000. Does anybody want to guess what you would have if you list up that money compounded 5%? $347,000. And if you're able to borrow the money from the policy, you still have the used cars. So ladies and gentlemen, I conclude that paying cash is a good idea. However, it depends on where that cash is coming from. I want to thank you for your time.